Hey, what's up YouTube? So today I'm actually going to be profiling a fun deck that I've been working on for the past week. Um, it's a Fluffal mix, I guess. It's not really focused on Fluffals, but you can still OTK with them. But aside from that, I'll be profiling this a little bit different because it's kind of a weird mix. I'm going to be doing it by the engine or by the package. So to start off is the Fluffal engine, the largest portion of the deck. 3 Fluffal dog, still mandatory. 1 penguin. This is mostly because Fluffals aren't the main focus, but if you can search it with dog and you have poly in hand, why not get a draw 2? And along with that, you can get a dead card out of your hand, so it's not really that big of a problem. 2 bear, deck thin, toy vendor, more deck thin. We still run the Fluffal wings, so you can do the bear wings combo, or you can use another engine that I'll show you a little bit later. The last Fluffal monster is the 1 sheep, just for the sake of normal summon dog. If you already ran through your other resources, then you can search sheep, special sheep, bounce dog back, and summon chain or sabers from your graveyard. So it really helps get an extra monster. Next we'll go into the edge imps. 3 chain, 1 of the scale, and 1 sabers. The main one is chain because he can search. If you search with chain, most of the time you'll be searching for the patchwork, and then with patchwork you'll search cotton eater or sabers. So they're not really that big a deal if you don't see them. So long as you see the chain, you're fine. And the last 3 monsters for this portion of the deck is the King of the Swamp. Search poly. If you don't see patchwork, along with that, he's a substitute engrave. So whether you see it or not, it's not really that big a deal. But he is there. He comes in pretty handy sometimes. For the spells, 3 toy vendor, 3 poly, because you do need to have a target in order to resolve this in your deck. And if you're only running like 1 or 2, then you won't be able to resolve more than 1 or 2 of these patchwork, and that's not counting drawing into them. So it'll hurt if you got a dead patchwork in hand and no way to use it. 2 Fright for Fusion. I brought this up from the original the kind of pure Fluffal build, because most of the time your monsters are in grave for one reason or another, and this just gets you a fusion summon pretty easily. 1 Reborn. This is a searchable monster reborn, essentially. It gets you an extra monster on board, link summon, or just to get extra damage. And the last card for this engine, I guess you can call it, is Instant Fusion. Summon sheep for just 1,000 life points. Is pretty nice. Alright, so into the next engine. This is another main part of the deck. It is Orcust. So I'm actually running just the main ones. I'm not running the level 1 tuner. He's not really that useful in this deck. But I'm running 2 Symbol Skeleton. I'm running 2 Harpour, 2 Orcust Nightmare, and just the 1 World Wand. This is, you don't use it too often, so I'm not really worried about it. And if you need it, you can just use summon sorcerers to get it out. It's not hard at all. And we only run 2 spells for that engine. Most of the time, you want to search this if you're going first. If you're going second, you can search return to get you into more draws so you can get into your Fluffal combos. So, on to the next portion of the deck. It is actually the Brilliant Fusion engine. 3 Lone Fire and 2 Scorpio. This is more of just trying to run 5 Scorpio, and then we run 1 of each of the bricks. Mostly because this is at 1. A lot of people actually don't like this engine anymore, but I still find it useful just the same. Before this went to 1, I was only running it at 2 anyways, so it's not that different for me. In a 60 card deck, you rarely draw into this, and you rarely draw into these, except for this one. This one's a magnet for me, apparently. But basically, if you get this engine and you have another monster to additional normal summon when you summon Seraph Knight, it's essentially like a 2 to 3 card YuGiOh, and that's just pretty nice, being able to reset your hand. The last portion is more of just generic support cards, like the Dark Warrior, Armageddon Knight, and Grepher, just pitching things to grave. Dark Grepher is actually slightly more useful in this deck, because you can pitch the chain from your hand to send something like Destrudo, which is another one, 2 Destrudo, and the last monster is 1 Dark Rose Fairy. She is more of just something that I'm kind of testing out, and I kind of had a fun little idea with her. So basically, since Destrudo is so easy to get to the graveyard using one of these guys' effects, you have the fairy in hand, even if she's in the graveyard, she can actually put herself to the top or bottom of the deck by pitching a card from your hand. So even with that, if you have Destrudo in hand and you can find a way to Foolish Burial her by any means, you can discard the Destrudo, put her to the top, and through one of your many draw cards, you can just get her back to hand and use her effect. So basically, if you special summon a tutor monster, you can summon her from your hand, and it doesn't really matter what monster you have along with them, because Destrudo changes level so that it's a total of 7, and then with the Dark Rose Fairy, it makes it an automatic 9, so you can go into Trish. I haven't been able to, I haven't done it too often, but it has come up, and if you're going first, you're basically just taking a card out of your opponent's hand. If you're going second, then it's a lot better, but it was just a fun little gadget I'm trying out. Generic spells, 3 called. 2 Foolish Burial of Goods. So this is actually useful for Fluffals because you can send the Toy Vendor, but you can also send the Orcust field spell, discard a card from your hand, and add it back to your hand. So if you have a dead Orcust in hand, you can just discard, add the field spell back, and activate the field spell. The last 3 cards in the deck is a Foolish Burial, World Legacy Succession, and a Monster Reborn. These should actually be pretty self-explanatory. If you have the fairy and you have this, you normal summon, if it's dog or whatever, it doesn't matter. Pitch Destrudo to grave, summon Destrudo, summon the fairy, that's already 9. Succession is just extra bodies, revival, extenders. Same with Reborn. So onto the extra deck. For the fusions, the 1 Seraph Knight, 1 Sheep, 1 Tiger, 1 Kraken, and 2 Sabertooth. So testing this online, I was actually able to OTK with just the Fluffal engine. I was able to see enough draw cards to not even have to use the Orcust monsters. So I was able to summon Kraken, send their monster to the grave, Sabertooth, using the Kraken, summon Kraken back, send the second monster, and his board is clear at that point. His back row was basically just baits, or not baits, but they were just useless. And so I was able to OTK with these 3. It was pretty easy to do, actually, with all the fusion spells that we run. For synchros, it's just the 1 Trish. Mainly just taking the 3 cards away from your opponent. Nobody's ever gonna expect you to actually synchro summon in Fluffals, so it's pretty nice. Kind of funny too. A kind of nightmare package. So you summon Phoenix, then you summon Mermaid to get Nightmare Orcust, the Orcust Nightmare, out of your deck. Summon it, and then you can summon Sorceress, pointing at the Nightmare, and with that you actually get the World Legacy Wand. So it gets the the Orcust engine moving. And we run 1 of each of the links, 1 Galatea, 1 Longirsu, and the 1 Orcustrion. It's pretty easy to actually get turn 1 setup with Orcustrion and Longirsu. Turn 1 with the field spell active with enough banish or being able to banish to fuel their effects. And it is actually pretty controlling if you set it up right. And then the last 2 monsters is 1 Borload and the 1 YuGiOh. Very easy to make, and this is still a problem for certain decks. So if you summon it, most of the time they're going to struggle for a while. But that's it for the deck. This is purely just a fun deck idea that I was trying out. Nothing really super special about it. If you guys want to have some fun, go ahead and test it out for yourselves. Let me know what you think. This isn't really a set combo kind of deck. It's more of like, see what you got and see what you can do. The only thing I will say would be run through your Fluffal engine first, and your Brilliant engine if you have it. If they negate it, then it is what it is. There's still more things to get around. The Orcust engine ends up being the last thing you do in your turn, because as soon as you do it, you're locked into darks, which for the most part isn't really a problem, because all the fusions except for Kraken and the Seraph Knight are dark. So if you go Sheep and Sabertooth with 3 materials, that's actually pretty hard to get around. But it's still just a fun idea just to mess around with. But thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys in the next video.